Minutes. On September 2nd, 2021, Governor Kathy Hochul signed into law Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, which authorizes the community board to run the meeting remotely, and minutes will be taken for record keeping. Minutes will appear on our website within days and can be requested from the Bronx Community Board 7's staff at any time. If you are calling into the meeting on the conference, controls are as follows. To hear all available commands, enter ** on your phone, *6 to mute or unmute yourself, *9, virtually raise your hand. Okay, the meeting will be run as follows. The code of conduct for our meetings is as follows. Bronx Community Board 7 has the right to remove and/or ask a member of the public to leave a meeting or block participation of anyone who engages in inappropriate conduct, including but not limited to obscene or offensive images or language, personal attacks, threats, or any other behavior that reasonably impedes the orderly administration of the meeting. Repeat offenses will be reviewed by the board's executive committee or any other assigned committee for a ban determined by the above committee of the participants in the event of repeated disruptive behavior. If in person outbursts or attacks continue, this will be considered disturbing the peace and the authorities will be summoned. Everyone beside the speaker or presenter will stay muted throughout the meeting. After each presentation is over, I will inquire if committee members have questions. Committee members will signify that they have a question by pressing the raised hand button on your screen or request to speak through the chat or when the chair opens the floor. Members of the public who have joined through the online link usually are not permitted to ask questions or to speak at the executive committee meeting. All right, only those recognized by the chair of the committee will be allowed to speak during the allotted time. We will stay on topic with the agenda items. Any other items will be acknowledged by the chair in new business or addressed at the next meeting, granted there is time and the committee agrees on the topic. Following the questions, discussion, and the committee will begin their discussion after each presentation or agenda item and will conclude with the decision to vote on a recommendation. When the agenda is finished, the meeting will be adjourned. If there are any questions related to the meeting software or to our process, please use the chat function or raise hand function now or contact our district manager. All right, we'll move on to attendance. All right. I'm present. Barbara is here. Eric Asensio.
Present.
Thank you. Betty Arce.
Present.
Thank you. Yahira Arias.
Jahira Arias present.
Thank you. Michelle Avila.
Present.
Thank you. Andrew Leosa.
Andrew Leosa present.
Okay. Emmanuel Martinez is not here tonight. Edgar Ramos.
Edgar Ramos present.
Thank you. Luis Acosta.
Lauris Acosta present.
Thank you. Chad Royer.
Chad Royer is present.
Thank you. And Victor Saldana. Victor? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, the next item will be the minutes from last month's meeting. I'll put them up. Okay, I'll scroll through them slowly so you can take a look. We had Aisha's report. And then the chairperson's update. And then we went through our committees. Okay, do we have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Okay, Michelle, somebody want to second that?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Minutes are accepted as presented. Okay, I will put up the agenda just so everybody can take a look. All right. We have one motion, as you can see. Right.
I have an amendment.
Okay, when we get to you, Andrew, you can tell us about it.
No, you have to, since the agenda can't move on unless you accept an amendment to the agenda, and I think he's amending one
Oh,
of
I'm
his motions.
sorry, okay. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, it's more a housekeeping issue. There are actually two names. And it is Michelle Gonzalez and Jamar Quintana. So there will be two separate motions, one for each name.
Okay, thank you. Do we have to vote on that? To accept the amendment? I think so. All right, do we get a second for Andrew's motion?
Second that.
Thank you. All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
okay, good, thank you. Motion passes. All right, we'll move on then to new business. We'll start with the district manager's update. Aisha, are you ready?
Yeah, it's a lot, so sorry. It's just, there's a lot going on. And there's been a lot of requests. So I'm gonna skip through some. Actually, I don't see how I can do that. Never mind. So I sent this out. The Taxi and Limousine Commission is proposing amendments to rules that would create a flat rate of $39 per trip between LaGuardia Airport and Manhattan, south of West 110th Street and east. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I heard something in the background. So yeah, so they're proposing that flat rate. There's more details in my report. I'm gonna share a link with the secretary to add to the executive minutes. Just so you know, there will be a hearing on this on April 5th at 5 a.m. and it's gonna be done via Zoom. If people want to attend this hearing, I'm gonna drop this link in the chat. Let me do that. I'm sorry, this is why it's gonna take a little longer, but I think it's important that folks have the information since the report may not come out as timely as it should. We chatted about this and we've been chatting about this for quite some time now. And I'm sure the chair of education will go ahead and talk about this as well. The scholarship, the Yankee scholarships are partnership that exists among all community boards. They just so graciously extended our deadline to April 4th at noon. The committee will meet April 5th to review these applications. Unfortunately, we have not received an abundance. So I'm asking everyone to please help us and share that information in all your networks. It is a requirement that folks do live within Community Board 7 and meet all requirements, as these documents will be requested by the Yankees before issuing a check. Again, this will be closed April 4th by noon to give time to the committee to review the next day. And hopefully this is it. Next, domestic worker updates. On March 12th, there are new employment protections for domestic workers and cleaners, nannies, landscaper, anyone who hires them is liable as an employer. There's also a link in my report that shares what those protections are, but it's pretty much the equivalent of any employee. Mobile car washes. This has been a hot topic in CB7. And when I mean hot for many reasons. They are legal and there are many reasons why. I've been asked about what agency has oversight over car washes, and this is the Department of Consumer Worker Protections. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. So I'm going to read through something really quickly I put together. A car wash operator must apply for a car wash license if its business cleans vehicles, including washing, detailing, drying, polishing, vacuuming, and other cosmetic care vehicles, either at a fixed location or at part of a mobile on-demand or pop-up service. Exceptions: they do not need a car wash license if they operate a self-service facility, wash vehicles intermittently to raise funds for a nonprofit, or wash vehicles only as an auxiliary service to a main service. For example, a repair shop, a car dealership, a leasing agent, and do not offer car washing directly to the public. City laws and regulation include those enforced by the Department of Consumer Protections, the Department of Environmental Protection, DOT, and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, as well as the police department. Now, the biggest question I know, Betty, you have always had, I believe, is about hydrants. Can they use hydrants? Apparently, according to DEP, that those are not commonly used. Typically, they bring their own water. Now, whether they're getting that water from a hydrant is a whole different story when enforcement actually comes to them. So they actually could apply to get a DEP license to use the hydrant. I am going to open this link really quick just to share my screen. This has been a hot topic between the sectors. This is why I'm bringing it up, because it's been a little overwhelming with the concerns. So I'm sharing my screen. If everybody can see, this is pretty much like the do's and don'ts, right, of mobile car washes. As you can see, the don't, it says all the way at the bottom, I'm going to skip through it, says use public hydrants or other water sources without proper authorization, licenses, or permits. So this is in my report. I will be happy to share the do's and don'ts, which I feel like are more applicable to the concerns that have come up lately. So just give me a second while I'm sorry. It's a lot of clicking, going back and forth here. So it's hard. So I'm going to copy this and put it in the chat so you all can have it. Right. So you have to file 301 complaints when you see these folks that are using the hydrants. Enforcement is tough. Like I mentioned, several agencies, right? PD can do it, but if they show them a permit, they show them a permit. Chad, before I move on, go ahead. Or Betty, I'm not sure who had their hand up first.
I think it was Chad.
I'll wait.
It was Chad.
I'll wait.
Go ahead,
Betty?
Chad.
Yeah, I thought Chad had his hand up first, so, but thank you.
Oh, my question was simply, how do we file a 311 complaint when they keep closing out the ticket under the guise of a legal business. That's been a challenge of mine.
So it could be that they actually visit the site and ask for permits and they're providing permits. Or if they're not providing permits, they're providing some sort of documentation that falls within the other guidelines that I read. But again, you can always follow up with me, which is what it's mostly in Sector C. That's what Sector C has done. I've worked closely with them. I've also worked closely with landlords that have an issue of these mobile car washes occupying space in front of residential places and leaving garbage behind, and they're repeat offenders. So I've actually partnered up with the landlord, have showed up to the site and had a conversation with the vendor. Obviously, I can't do any enforcement, but a simple conversation with a vendor of like, hey, help me out, he'd be helpful. Can you stop dumping the garbage? Do you need bags? Can I bring you bags? You know, so I tried that approach. It's worked. And so far, I haven't received a call back from that landlord in months. So, you know, the point is that I try to do my best to mitigate these issues as friendly and as peaceful as possible. We all know that we're going through an economic crisis and folks are doing the best they can to survive. But, you know, again, I can be helpful in that sense. Like if you feel like this is a nuisance or you just think that they may not be licensed because if you see them to get ticketed and then they come back, just try to communicate with me in some way, or if not, at least with your local NCO. Their first approach is to get them moved, obviously not to get ticketed. But Betty?
Yeah, it's just so disheartening, but I'll be very quick. I just wanted for you to clarify for me. They can operate as an extension of, can they operate on their own freestanding?
They can if they're issued a permit. They can. So the mobile car washes are legal overall.
Okay, and then they can actually then submit for a permit to use the water from a hydrant? Is that what you're saying?
I'm sure it's not that simple the way I'm making it seem. They have their process. That's why in my report I've included several links. But I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You can hear me? Okay,
Yes.
it keeps saying my connection's unstable. I'm not sure why. Yeah, I can always request that the Department of Consumer Worker Protection come to maybe the exec next month to give a quick presentation because it's something that covers multiple committees, right?
Yes.
If it's in a sidewalk, it covers DOT. So
Yeah.
they can give a quick 5-minute presentation and they'll be best equipped to answer all the questions.
Yeah.
I skimmed through it and that was what my extractions based on the complaints. But again, I shared with you what I've done, right, on the side, just kind of to be responsive to some of our property owners. But again, I think it's probably best that the Department of Consumer Worker Protection kind of come in, and they're the ones that have the most answers.
Okay.
I shared with you DEPs, but yeah, I can arrange that if that's what the committee wants.
I would like it. I'd like to have someone come and just give us the down and dirty on this so that we are aware. I'm going to bring it up to my committee, just to let them know that this is the case. I'd like to share this and take it up. I have concerns about the use of the hydrant, also the whatever shampoos. I'm assuming that what they're using is what car washes use anyway. So, I just had those kind of concerns, but thank you.
Yeah, no, they're definitely valid concerns. That's why I'm bringing it up. I typically don't bring up the 1,001 things I work on, but because it's become such a hot topic, I wanted to make sure that it was addressed. But in essence, the executive committee, that's what the role is, right? Is to kind of bring in those issues that overlap with committees. So it's a perfect opportunity to do that. I'm sorry if I didn't answer all the questions, but more or less, I think if you go through my report and you see some of the links, you can kind of read through them and some of your questions could be answered. But in essence, I know the water was a concern, permitting was a concern, where they're parked is a concern, the garbage they're leaving behind was the biggest concern I had overall. And just folks that feel like it's a nuisance, right? Like they just don't want it on their block, right? So that's kind of what's been going on.
Good point, Aisha, because if you ride through Webster Avenue from Gun Hill to 233rd Street, it's unbelievable the number of car washes there. I don't know how they make money.
Yeah, I'm trying to waste the water from the mobile car
And-
wash. It
and-
goes
and
into
the-
the street. Yeah. Yeah, it's an environmental issue. We could definitely bring both agencies to collaborate on those conversations.
Good.
Yeah, that's
And
not
I
a big
just want-
deal.
Just real quick, there is actually and I guess it's there was a car wash on Gun Hill on Webster Avenue, just below Gun Hill Road, that has never reopened. It's next to a gas station. And I'm surprised it had never reopened. It was very popular and used a lot. So I'm kind of surprised that, that doesn't open, but these mobile car washes proliferate through the neighborhood.
So there's been a theft of services that a lot of car, I'm not accusing that one, I'm just generalizing it. There's been a theft of wages from some of these businesses. So I don't know this, but a lot of car washes have now unionized, so at full service. I'm not, some folks got in trouble for violating workers' rights. I know that was a big deal recently. And
Wow.
when I say recently, I mean like in the past year. Or probably more. I lost track after COVID. But yeah, I think my report has a lot of good detail in it. And since we're talking about workers' rights, the best segue is that there's new legislation regulating the online third-party food delivery services, basically the delivery apps, and its protection to the delivery workers. And I'll quickly go through that summary. Like the apps, they must tell you how much the customer tips you for each delivery. It must tell you your total pay and tips for the previous day. It must give you better access to restaurant bathrooms when you pick up orders. Delivery workers will have more control over their deliveries. They can limit how far they will go from restaurants and refuse to use bridges or tunnels. The restaurant must tell delivery workers the route details before they accept a delivery, which must include obviously the address for pickup, estimated time, distance for trip, if known, right? Or the pay. Must pay delivery workers at least once a week. They cannot charge a fee to process their payment. Must give delivery workers a free insulated food delivery bag after 6 deliveries. And which is a big deal. We all know that a lot of these apps have been predatory to our workers, and a lot of folks during the pandemic were forced to do this because they were out of work. So we want to make sure that they're obviously treated fairly, and I think this is important to share. A lot of our restaurants in the district do use delivery workers, so we have to be mindful of that. The next thing is CB7 potholes. I'm bringing this up. I never do because potholes have been like a thing, right? Every time there's a snowstorm, there's salt, there are holes on the ground. And I know everybody files 311 complaints, but there are folks that don't, right? They'll call us, we file it for them. Sorry, my son is playing with a toy, and if you can hear it, I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. This is why I need to work from an office. So March for them is, for DOT, March is the paving season. And they basically, they call it, I'm sorry. He's making a lot of noise. Sorry. I truly apologize for that, but I guess the new norm. So it's the DOT calls it the March paving season conveniently, right? They basically send a road recovery crew that'll go through the streets based on either our complaints, community stakeholders, and 301 complaints, right? I asked for a list of those areas that they will be assessing since this has come up, and obviously they have to generate a list in order to do a work order. So I'll follow up with that, but I'm gonna encourage you to continue to make 301 complaints, right? And if you broke a tire because of this or a rim, the city does reimburse you. So if you need help with that, again, just follow up with us. I do tell you they take a long time to do, but they do reimbursements. The next thing is the Gun Hill Road Community Advisory Board. DOT has convened a CAB, which will focus on the changes like bus priority and pedestrian safety on East Gun Hill between Bainbridge and Bartow Avenues. So this covers several community boards. And of course, you'll hear more of this in April by the committee chair and DOT, but I've included a link to the presentation that they shared with us. Folks that are invited to the CAB are obviously the transportation chair, myself, and it's a very small pool of people. It's the director of North Central, Montefiore, folks that, you know, their employees have been affected as well. And then they're going to come to the community board for a full support letter and so forth. But again, the chair will go on to share more of that. But if you're interested, there's a link on my report, and I can also drop it in the chat. The Bainbridge Avenue project, which seems to be endless, it's been stretched again to June 30th, 2023. If you have any complaints, any concerns, I know that for the last 2 years, we've been helpful at getting a traffic agent on the site. Thank you to former council member Cohen, and recently, obviously, our own efforts. But they have a new project manager, and this project manager is unaware of how helpful we've been in the past with these agents. So I had to make note of that to this person. So if there are any new issues that do come up, don't assume we know about them, right? The district is fairly large. Please make sure that you email us. The next thing is applying for summer youth employment. It's the largest amount allocated ever in the city of New York. So we want to make sure we encourage our youth. The deadline is April 22nd. Again, that link is also in my report, so feel free to share that. Renewing your ID NYC. Before, you had to do that in person. I don't know if you remember, like 2-3 years ago, we had them actually in our office where folks can bring their documents and get an ID. Now you can actually do that online, which is great. As you know, you can use that ID in many places for discounts. Again, that link is also on me. Like I said, it's a lot to report. There's a lot going on and a lot of requests. So I base this report on requests that have been more than one. Now, this is a hot one, so I'm actually going to skip through it and come back. So I want to give an update on St. James Park. I know that there have been, you know, between constituents calling about flooding and not having access to the infrastructure of the center is a problem. So the response we pretty much got from St. James is that it's in very bad conditions. I think we all know that. They have requested funding from FEMA to make the repairs. They have extensive flooding resulting from obviously the storm Ida in the centers. They had a newly installed HVAC system that was completely destroyed, right? And in order to reopen the center, it needs to be replaced. And that is a capital project, right? And the process for securing a capital project can be very extensive, right? It has to be through the council members, another agency. So they're in the process of applying for something called an emergency declaration is to expedite the procurement process. We all know that the city's procurement process is ridiculous, but nonetheless exists, right? If approved, the next step would be to secure obviously the funding and making sure that, you know, the center is restored, as well as some of the drainage issues that it's been having and so forth. So this is like a lot. It's basically for me to tell you that it won't be open anytime soon. I am having conversations with the council member to see if we can secure funding, some capital funding for this, and hopefully she can push the expediting of this declaration. So
Okay, question.
I'm hopeful. Yeah.
Aisha, I understand that the recreation person was transferred to St. Mary's Park from St. James, and we discussed this at the Parks Committee meeting. We would like at least to bring that person back for outdoor activities in the summer. So we're going to look into that and whatever, because it's a highly used park and it's important to have activities for the kids.
No, I agree with you 110%, but you also have to be mindful that these are folks that could be under a union contract. And because of extreme weather conditions, that may not, and I'm giving you what I've dealt with in the past, may not be an option. They may have to hire, you know, maybe temporary employees for something like that. But yeah, definitely.
We'll give it a try, definitely.
Yeah, definitely ask, but just to be mindful of you know, the union issues.
Right.
Leotis?
Aisha, I'm just curious to know who has your point person been when referring when talking about St. James.
So it depends on capital. It depends. It's different people.
Okay, I'd appreciate some type of connection. I've just been trying to, I'm in the, I don't know, I'm trying to put together something, but I need some type of leadership from St. James to speak to, and I haven't been getting a response from Shirley. So if you're able to help, please.
If you could send me the specifics, yeah, it's different. Remember, I'm the district manager, so my conversations with them are very different than projects. So
Right. Okay.
yeah, so
Okay,
it's more finances and getting in the middle so elected officials can help. That's kind of like more of the meddling that I do. But send me the specifics of what you want to do, right? But again, they're really going through a lot right now.
Right.
So it could be that. I don't think there's anything, or I hope anything on purpose, but I just let me know what you want to do so I can try
Okay.
to be as helpful as possible there.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, so I have to go back and forth because my screen for my report and all these things I'm sharing are very important. So sorry, bear with me. So I shared earlier that the executive order has been extended, which allows the continuation of remote meetings up until April 15th. I am exploring potential locations between Lehman and Monroe. No other place would obviously accommodate us because most of the places that accommodated us in the past have folks with predisposed health conditions, the senior population, our hospitals. And, you know, we don't have an abundance of locations that would house us. So it makes sense to go to our campuses. But again, it has been extended. So we'll update you when we have more information. But as of right now, we're going to remain on Zoom.
Are we talking about the general board meetings or committee meetings?
All meetings,
Okay.
all meetings, yeah. All right, what else? There's been several questions, I know, between Barbara, Betty, and just board members and community folks in general, right? Like, it's always a scary feeling to live in a place and seeing something get demolished. You have no idea what's being erected, especially if it's not receiving any government subsidies. Some things are not necessarily advertised. So I did share with Betty and I forget who else you include in the email, 2 links where you can kind of like look up the address and find out what's happening based on the demolition order. Now, while it may not always explain everything, because I believe now they've removed the property owner, some of the property owner information. Now you have to go through the Department of Finance. So it's a little harder now, but nonetheless, at least we give you an opportunity to kind of figure out like what subsidized building, meaning it's receiving any government subsidy. Because you see the word lottery or anything like that, it should have come to us. Now, just because you don't remember it or you just joined the board, it doesn't mean it didn't come to us, right? It could have come to us 2 years ago, right? And had some sort of installments because of their finances and now are coming back. It could have predated me. There was a project that kind of predated me that's actually had an issue with their contractor and just recently started, right? So all those things come into play. But again, shoot me a couple of addresses. We'll look into it. Just be patient. These agencies are transitioning. So a lot of the liaisons that we don't have, and we also have new liaisons that are not familiar with some of our needs. So patience is the key to life right now. But again, these 2 links will be helpful. And they'll be in my report. Okay, I said that. I'm going to go into the more controversial. No, this one is not. Okay. So there's one more. On March 25th, we're going to partner up with Assembly Member Natalia Fernandez, Senator Jamal Bailey, Councilmember Eric Dinowitz, and Common Pantry to bring some free food to the community. It's going to be at East 204th Street and Whole Avenue. This will not be released until tomorrow's event is over, that she's having another one. But I'm just sharing it now because I'll email it after the event is over tomorrow. You know, if you want to finish one event before you share sizer and some smaller items. Nothing crazy, but that's our big center of our partnership. Now, I'm going to move on to 2 potential controversial items. I'm going to start with the medical marijuana facility that relocated from Hunts Point. I did share this, I believe, September, October, and I also shared a fact sheet with everyone. I'm not sure how much people remember, but this facility opened January 26th. It is fully operational. I only have the fact sheet that was shared then. I have invited them to attend the executive meeting April 21st with the lead of our health committee chair, of course, but because this covers land use, health, and quality of life and everything pretty much, it's probably best that they come to the executive committee. Before then, I did ask them for an updated fact sheet that would include their operation as since January 26th. They do not require a permit. This was a transfer facility. They only service medical marijuana. This is not recreational marijuana. So start gathering your thoughts and your questions. So if I'll at some point in April, I'll reach out to everyone asking to collect those questions so they could come best prepared. I know that the word marijuana is very scary to a lot of people, especially, around safety, distribution, right? So just feel free to start gathering those questions. At some point, I will reach out, or you could send the questions to the health committee chair. But this is also my report. I'm actually going to drop the fact sheet because I think this one should be in the chat, like right now. So give me a second. Because my computer is never working with me ever.
Aisha, that's the facility that I had told you about, the one
Correct.
that okay. All right. And then that's the only one in our area?
That is the only medical. There's only one in the Bronx, and that was the one. It just relocated.
Okay.
But this is not recreational, right? There's a whole nother thing going on in state for recreational marijuana. This is medical. Yeah, so people do need a prescription for this. This is not like, hey, I'm gonna walk in and I'm gonna let them explain that to you. But I'll definitely be reaching out to make sure. I did drop the link in the chat, which is their current fact sheet. All right, so I'm going to move on to the one that's been somewhat of our kryptonite, right? The distribution of needles in our district, right? Or across the Bronx, right? Mobile distribution cars. So I'd be lying to you if there's only one or two. There's four, and then there's four across the river that do service our area. So I haven't deciphered it all yet. It's a lot to decipher. But I do have in my report some facts that I'll read quickly. Again, I'm probably not the most equipped person to answer in-deep questions, but this is something that I am working on very closely with the council member's office to see how we can better service the need of this population, as well as servicing the quality of life of our community that is well-deserved in park areas and in school areas, especially at the Kingsbridge Underpass. So let me just read through this really quickly. There are no specific restrictions where SSPs, that's what they're called, right? Can operate. All SSPs are authorized by the New York State Department of Health and overseen by the New York State and City Department of Health. The New York State Department of Health approves the specific location and hours of syringe service program, which is what SSP stands for, and authorizes changes to their location or means of distribution. SSPs must go through an extensive waiver application process before opening a new site. We're talking about a physical location now, right? After a waiver has been granted, programs are subject to strict monitoring and reporting requirements. Like give a needle, take a needle, right? SSPs play a critical role in promoting community health and safety. For example, many SSPs conduct outreach and syringe litter cleanup in areas of high need, including public parks, playground, and near schools. Biggest one for me, right? SSPs are critical in reducing syringe litter because they provide people who inject drugs with places to safely dispose of used syringes, and their outreach teams routinely pick up syringe litter in their community. In addition to sterile syringe access, SSPs provide a broad range, I'm giving you their definition, right? Not mine, of health and social services, including overdose prevention education, Noxalon training, risk reduction education, drug treatment referrals, and on-site, I can't say this word, buprenorphine. I think I said it right. HIV and hepatitis C testing, counseling and referrals to healthcare and social services and primary healthcare. Mobile syringe service programs cannot distribute syringes or other services outside of the pre-approved locations and service individuals who cannot travel to a physical SSP location, right? We all know that there are plenty of in the Bronx, which are sites where you can pick up a clean needle. Now, the issue that we're having here is that they're servicing an area like ours that they perceive that is an issue because you see tons of syringes on the floor. So they're bringing the clean needles to where they find the dirty needles, right? Because the whole point of a program is give a needle, take a needle, right? But that's not always the case, right? Oh my gosh, there were people in the chat. Barbara, do you mind co-hosting? So if you see somebody, oh, I forgot to make a co-host, sorry.
No, you didn't make it.
Sorry, there were folks waiting in the chat, and because I'm reading off my screen, I can't see.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So let me just, I'm not sure what point Michelle left or Victor. I'm sorry, you guys were in the waiting room and like I was reading off my screen, so I didn't see the participant. But I was talking about the needle distribution. I was also talking, I think the two things that would matter to medical marijuana facility on Fordham, that's a transfer from Hunts Point. I did share that they'll be coming on April 21st, which is the next executive meeting. And I shared that this will be led obviously by the health committee chair, but because it touches so many issues between quality of life, I mean, tons of issues, right? I mean, tons of overlap here. They're going to come in and obviously give a thorough presentation. They opened on January 26th. So if you pass by Fordham, you will see that they're fully operational. But again, this is a medical marijuana facility. So you need a prescription. It's not like anyone could just walk in. But anyway, I dropped the fact sheet in the chat. It's not the most updated, obviously, since they've been open, but it's something to go off. I will be reaching out sooner than later to gather questions so they can be better prepared and not have to say we get back to you. If you can either send them to myself or the health committee chair, that'd be great, or both, right? So we can go ahead and gather them. I think that that's important just to alleviate any concerns that may be coming up around public safety, right? That's the first thing. I think folks hear marijuana and that's it. So we want to make sure that all concerns and questions are answered. I'll share really quickly, they do not need a permit. This is a transfer facility, but we should have as much input as possible. It seems like they want to be invested in this commercial corridor and be as helpful as possible, about 2 blocks away from there. So they won't be an extension of that, but they can certainly help the merchants that are south of that, right, with any of their needs. So these are things that we can leverage over a facility like this one. And then the other thing I mentioned is the needle distribution that is happening in our district. I wish I could tell you there were 4 sites. There's so many there's so many mobile nonprofits that are coming into our district because our proximity to Washington Heights, and that's where there's a lot of them. So I'm trying to decipher a lot of the information that was shared with me. I am working with Councilmember Felice. I know that this has been a big issue in the quality of life of the folks who live there. We do take into consideration that folks do need to get the help, whether that's a clean needle or all the services that do come with getting a clean needle, but it shouldn't be at the expense and quality of life of our children and our families that are enjoying the parks. As of right now, there are no restrictions on where they can give needles, right? So this is obviously a bigger conversation that needs to continue to happen, and some deciphering on what the law really says, and or maybe some restrictions on how the funding is given, right? But again, I'll get back to the board, but I wanted to make sure I followed up on something that I know my report has been extremely long and I never make it this long, but this is something that's just been overwhelming for the last few months. And I think that as committee chairs, you can distribute that this information at large. So that's why my report has been so extensive, but again, it'll be shared with everyone. I think that wraps it up. I just wanted to recap for the 2 committee chairs that rejoined us or joined us. And the last thing I'm going to end with, and I'm sure ladies, if you could please emphasize again, we need scholarship recipients. Like I know that some of the requirements are a little extensive, and I will inquire if they could be minimized because of COVID. It's a 50-hour community service requirement. But please, help us get some folks. We have been reaching out to all the Bronx high schools. The requirement is that folks do live in Community Board 7. We have been working with all our nonprofits. They do service the district, so they obviously have access to folks within those ages. But we've exhausted every route that we could possibly go, and I believe we have either 2 or 3 recipients out of 5. which is not unusual. Usually we get just the 5, right? I think it was only 1 year we got 6, at least since I've been here. But I'm sure that the committee chair wants to deep dive on this and get it done. So the deadline is April 4th at noon, and the committee will review by April 5th. So we want to make sure that we give everything to the committee beforehand so they have time to review if there is more than 5, if not, but at least to make it a formal adoption of the 5. I know it was a lot, but there are a lot of links in my report. Any
Okay.
other questions?
All right, thank you. Any questions for Aisha before we move the agenda?
If an adult community board
Right.
member is also a student, can they apply? No community board members can apply. I did send do's and don'ts in my first emails. You cannot encourage the committee to go in a certain direction. You can certainly encourage people to apply, but no, you should not be a community board. Community board members cannot reap the benefits of, that's part of the conflict of interest disclosure you received. So no,
Okay,
that was a question in the chat, Barbara.
okay, fine, thank you. We'll move on. Our chairperson is not here tonight, but he asked me to tell you that his update will be transmitted to the committee via email. All right, next item, our committee reports. We'll start with budget, personnel, and ethics. Andrew, you have a motion, so you're on first.
Yeah, there are 2 motions, and we will do them separately. Sorry. So the motion is to send attendance letters to board member who is not complying with the attendance requirements of the community board according to our bylaws. It is Michelle Gonzalez. So that's the motion.
Michelle
Okay.
Avila seconds.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on Andrew's motion?
No, I mean, Michelle is supposed to be a member of the health committee, and in all my time as chair, she's not attended 1 meeting. So I think this is fitting.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. All right.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the name? I lost audio for a second.
The name is Michelle Gonzalez.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, do you want to repeat the motion, Andrew, before we take the vote?
Just a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
I know usually the process is they try to reach the person to see if there's some reason for the absences or if there's something that they need help with. Have they tried contacting Michelle?
I personally have. Tom has as well.
Okay.
I always do check-ins when folks, I did check-ins in August. They get the emails.
Yeah,
I
no,
can
just
tell
like
when they
said,
open
just-
them. I can
just-
tell
just-
when they open them through Constant Contact. I'm so serious.
No, I'm just saying, just making, I know it's part of the process. So I know we usually follow it pretty much.
But this letter, Andrew, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's pretty much to check in also. It's not just like, hey, you've been asked. You're not voting the person out. You're voting to send a letter. Well, an
Right.
email in this case. Right,
The
Andrew?
basic language is the communication will inquire if the board member is committed to continuing serving on the board and they are committed to abide by the attendance requirements of the board.
Right,
Basically it.
okay.
If they say they can't make that level of commitment, then we will take the next step. If they say they can, well, the proof will be their future attendance records.
Okay, we have a question from Chad. Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, so I just want to ask, is the follow-up email followed up with a mail? Like an actual mailer with a stamp on it that goes to the address?
No, because of the COVID issues. We've said this several times before. It's emails are considered legal correspondence, and I could request a return receipt. We also use a marketing tool, which is called Constant Contact. So I know exactly what time and when you opened your email. And that is the email that is registered legally with the Bronx Borough President's Office and us as well. And the onus is on the board member to update any information that may be erroneous.
Okay,
The only reason I ask that is, just in case there's a circumstance with their email and, people normally check their mail more than they check their email.
Yeah, but there's also a phone chat, and we've been in contact via phone as well.
Oh, no, I understand the phone. I was just asking in particular with the mail. That's
Okay.
what I just wanted to inquire about.
all right.
But you've answered my question. Thank you.
Betty, go ahead. You have a question?
Just quickly, Andrew, this is, the person has not been attending 3 consecutive meetings, right? Which would include general board meeting and committee meetings, is that, or some variation thereof?
Yes, the language can get a little confusing, but the bottom line is any 3 consecutive meetings that the board member was expected to attend, if they miss those 3 meetings, they have not complied with the meeting requirements of the bylaws.
Okay, all right.
So it's a combination of committee meeting, executive meeting, if they are expected to attend the executive committee, and of course, the general board meeting.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. Andrew, just repeat the motion and then we'll vote.
Motion is to communicate to board member Michelle Gonzalez, informing that board member that they are in violation of the attendance requirements of Bronx Community Board 7, according to the committee, the board guidelines.
Okay, thank you. And the motion has
Bylaws.
seconded already. So we'll take the vote. Barbara Stranza votes yes. Eric Asensio,
Eric Asensio votes yes.
thank you. Betty Arce,
Betty Arce votes yes.
thank you. Yahira Arias,
Tahira Arias votes yes.
thank you. Michelle Avila,
Michelle Avila votes yes.
okay. Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leosa votes yes.
Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos votes yes.
okay. Larissa Acosta,
Lauris Acosta votes yes.
thank you. Chad Royer,
Chad Royer votes yes.
okay, thank you. And Victor Saldana,
Victor Saldana votes yes. And I know Barbara, if my attendance can be updated, apologize for being a bit late here.
yes. Okay, all right, the motion carries. All right, Andrew, do you want to read the second motion, please?
Second motion to communicate to board member Jamar Quintana that their attendance records indicate that they are in violation of the Bronx Community Board 7 bylaws regarding attendance requirements.
All right, do we have a second for that motion?
Michelle Avila seconds.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, any questions or discussion for Andrew? No. All right, then we'll vote on the motion as it stands. Barbara Stranza votes yes. Eric Asensio,
Eric Asensio votes yes.
thank you. Betty Arce,
Betty Arce votes yes.
thank you. Yahira Arias,
Tahira Arias votes yes.
thank you. Michelle Avila,
Michelle Avila votes yes.
thank you, Michelle. Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leosa approves the motion.
thank you. Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos approves the motion.
thank you. Luis Acosta,
Odisa Costa, yes.
thank you. Chad Royer,
Chad Royer votes yes.
Victor Saldana,
Victor Saldana votes yes.
thank you. The motion carries. All right, Andrew, anything else you want to report on?
No,
Barbara?
that was the bulk of the, yeah, that was the bulk of the committee meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, it's
Barbara?
yes, go ahead. Ms.
Sorry, I just wanted to thank Andrew and the committee for doing this. I know we've talked about attendance on an ongoing basis at several executive committee meetings, but it's really, really having an impact on the Health and Human Services Committee. Just our last meeting on Tuesday, we had only one committee member present. Had some great presentations, great engagement from the public, but again, if we would have had a voting item, we wouldn't have been able to do it. So just want to say that I am grateful that folks are monitoring the attendance and that I'm really hopeful that we can get some more engaged folks to serve on these committees because it's needed.
Okay. All right,
just
we'll
like-
move. Go
Could
ahead.
I just brief response? So, you know, the way the requirements are now, if you think about it, technically somebody can miss, let's say there are 3 meetings in a row, right? They
Mhm.
can miss 2 of the 3 meetings, but they avoided missing 3 meetings in a row. So, you know, double that, and they've missed a lot of meetings. Although we do say at the end, within a year, they can't miss more than half the meetings. There is an ad hoc bylaws committee, and some of you may
Mhm.
choose to attend and share some thoughts of a language, some kind of language that can clear up that problem where somebody can miss too many meetings and still barely qualify and meet the requirements of the attendance for the bylaws.
All right, good point, Andrew. Since the bylaws committee is in session now, working on the bylaws, it behooves us to try to come up with something that's a little clearer and would improve attendance for these committees.
Yeah.
All right, we have a question from Betty.
Yeah,
Betty?
just a comment following up on, and I'm on the bylaws committee as well. The issue of, there's a distinction between missing committee meetings and missing general board meetings or a combination thereof. And I have a problem with some committee members who haven't been coming to the committee meetings, but come to the general board meeting and so still manage to
Hmm,
get under the radar. And that's another concern I have. So.
Right, something we
Yes.
should look at.
Yes,
Definitely.
absolutely, yeah.
Good, thank you.
Barbara, I agree. Also, I just want to share that, you know, taking the temperature on board members as to why they're not coming and they're just going to a general board meeting is important. Maybe folks need to be shuffled into other committees. This is something I've stressed for months now, that we need to reevaluate folks' interest to see if maybe they're willing to serve on a second committee or even swap committees. I've shared this for months, but there's nothing I can do. So I want to make sure that that is on the record as well.
Okay. Thank you, good idea. Something should be done, I agree. All right, we'll move on to education, youth, and libraries. Luris?
Barbara, Jahira has a,
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed your hand. Oh, go ahead, Jahira.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I agree with Betty. Since we're on the bylaws committee, I've always thought that that was something that was very confusing. So hopefully we can have clear clarification for the present and the future of the bylaws of this board.
Okay, good. All right, we'll move on then to the Education, Youth, Libraries Committee.
Yes, hello, CB7. I'm not sure if you guys have heard, but there is the Yankee scholarship around. You know, we're trying to get the applications fulfilled. I'm actually gonna reach out to a couple of the schools in the area, and like specifically high schools, and try to see if we can pull somebody. If anybody has an organization that you think I can find someone, I would be happy to call. If you can suggest it, email me or put it in the chat. I'm gonna be doing some outreach in the next coming weeks. So again, if you haven't heard, this Yankee scholarship, we gotta take advantage of it. So that's number one. We also, at our meeting on March 2nd, we had a presentation by the Bronx Buccaneers, a youth football program. They offer great services, and I believe they are also attending the All Staff to share what they offer. We also had Literacy Inc. present on the resources they provide for the community. This is a learning curve for me. We're getting better though. I am actually speaking to someone from Fordham University, which I think that's a plus. You know, they're our neighbor. So just keep an eye open. We out here. That is all.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to environment and sanitation. Betty?
Oh, we didn't meet. We had no meeting.
All right,
We will meet in April, and we have a couple of interesting things on the agenda, including Helene attended a Rat Academy. So
Oh,
she's
wow.
going to, we're going to discuss, it's a very long presentation, but we're going to try to like highlight, you know, the important points of that. And someone's coming from an organization that does shop and swap, you know, sort of selling recycled items. So that'll be interesting. So we'll have those two and a couple of other things. But and this is why I like doing this meeting every other month, because it actually is giving me an opportunity to research, you know, things that we can do and invite people. And I think it'll be more interesting that way. So,
Okay, very good.
okay.
Thank you. All right, Health and Human Services. Michelle, you're on.
Thanks, Barbara. So we had a couple of great presentations this past Tuesday. We had someone from the Department of Health come in and share a little bit more on the data trends that they've seen on the substance that we talked about during the last couple of meetings, kratom, which is being sold in smoke shops and delis in CB7. The New York City Department of Health is saying that they are not seeing high incidences of overdoses caused by kratom. And where they do see them, it's about 1%. And where they do see overdoses, it's usually mixed with another substance, like an opioid substance. So they are actively surveilling this, but not something that's rising to high level of concern. We did ask the Department of Health to see if they can, from the data that they've collected on that 1%, to see if they can see like what the age demographic would be. Essentially, we're trying to get a sense if it's like youth that are using this or if the overdose rates that they're seeing are with older folks. So they said that they will get back to us on that. We also had a presentation from Montefiore's Department of Community Health. They talked about the upcoming community health needs assessment, which is a process that all hospitals are mandated to undertake as part of federal and state requirements. They're going to be sending out a survey link and asking folks what their top health concerns are. And based on the survey results that they get back from the needs assessment, they're going to pick within 5 defined categories. They're going to pick 2 initiatives on programs that they're going to work on as part of their community service plan. What's interesting is that they're doing this in partnership with the Greater New York Hospitals Association, which represents all of the hospitals. So all of the hospitals are going to have the same survey. It's just going to be differentiated by whatever header or QR code the survey has. So we also had Mr. Alfredo Jones from North Central. I believe he's the associate executive director of North Central, replacing Christina's role. And he said that, you know, they recommended that folks only take one survey so as not to be double counted. And they really asked for the community's help in pushing the survey out. So as we get materials, we'll absolutely share, and I will go in a little more detail in my minutes. And then, like I mentioned, Alfredo Jones was there. He introduced himself, gave some high-level updates on North Central Bronx. They are going to be changing the hours and days of operation for radiology. the radiology department, looking to accommodate folks that work during the week and may need to do some scans over the weekend. And so that seems to be developing and kicking off in April. And again, they'll keep us posted. That is all.
Okay, thank you so much, Michelle. All right, we'll move on to housing, land use, and economic development.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you. So we have a motion from the Housing and Land Use and Economic Development.
Eric, we lost you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we have a motion from the Housing and Land Use Committee for a DOB Saturday permit, 2520 Jerome Avenue, which is on James Terrace, building that's being built at the St. James Church site. So the motion reads as follows. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. So the motion is for the Bronx Community Board 7 to support the Department of Buildings Saturday permit variance from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for 2520 Jerome Avenue, St. James Terrace.
All right, do we have a second for that motion?
Second, Betty.
Thank you. All right, any discussion, any questions? No one? All right, so we'll move to vote. All right, do you want to repeat the motion again, Eric, please, before we vote?
The motion is for the Bronx Community Board 7 to support the Department of Buildings Saturday permit variance from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for 2520 Jerome Avenue, St. James Terrace.
All right, thank you. All right. Barbara Stranza votes yes on the motion. Eric Asensio?
Eric Asensio votes yes.
Thank you. Betty Arce?
I'll vote yes. I just have a real quick question. The community has no issue with noise or whatever, on this one, Eric?
No, because this is a very commercial area.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
But
right.
you have Monroe College in front of the site and the train.
Oh, got it. Okay, fine. Okay. It's okay. Thank you. Yes, Betty Arce votes yes.
Thank you. Yahira Arias?
Shahira Arias votes yes.
Okay, thank you. Michelle Avila?
Michelle Avila votes yes.
Thank you. Andrew Leosa?
Andrew Leosa votes yes.
Thank you. Edgar Ramos?
Edgar Ramos votes no.
Okay. Thank you. Larissa Costa?
Larissa Costa, yes.
Thank you. Chad Royer?
Chad Royer votes yes.
Thank you. Victor Saldana?
Victor Saldana votes yes.
Thank you. All right, the motion carries.
Great, thank you. And then our next meeting is April 11 at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you very much. Report on the Parks Committee. We're still waiting for a follow-up from Forestry. We have asked for a list of sites for tree plantings for this spring and next fall. and we haven't received it as yet, so we're going to have to follow up with them on that again. We talked about the community meeting that was held a few days before our meeting relating to the rehabilitation of Poe Park. I understand the councilman is appropriating $3 million. It was a well-attended meeting by the community. There were some very good suggestions. And the next step will be the Parks Department will come to Community Board 7 with an initial scope of work that they would like to do there for that amount of money. In addition to that, we are still not sure of what our staffing will be for the summer months. As you know, the mayor did promise to increase the Parks Department budget from 0.5% of the city budget to 1%. And now he's saying he can't do that and he has to cut the Parks budget by $60 million. So park lovers are not happy, to say the least. And we are also trying to follow up on the conditions at St. James Park with the hope that we could at least bring the recreation person back to the park for the summer months. Okay. Other than that, that's about it. You can read my minutes for the other things that were discussed. All right, we'll move on to public safety and quality of life. Victor?
Thank you, Barbara. We did not meet for the month of March. Our next meeting will be in April.
Okay, thank you. Traffic and transportation, Edgar?
Good evening, everyone. We had a meeting that we were supposed to have participants from organizations that weren't ready. Now for next month, we'll have a full boat. We have MTA coming to present, DOT. We've been getting some good feedback from the TD11 also. They've been coming to all of our meetings and they come with usually with pretty good information. We're hoping now with them having NYPD helping them on the platforms that they'll have better numbers this next quarter. So, we just hope to see good news from them.
Okay.
But they have been participating and they have been there for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.
I have a quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Does anybody know if this new gun unit also operates in the transit districts as well?
I don't know. I
No,
really,
it's done in areas where there's a spike in like gun violence, right? It's not all over the precinct. Like they just did a Vision Zero operation and it was within certain confines of the 5-2. So it's nothing's like, was that your question? I'm sorry, I don't know if I
whether or
misanswered.
not the new team will be used in transit also, or is it?
No.
No, okay. All right, we'll move on then. Veterans Affairs, Chad?
Yes, thank you. So we met on the 16th and we had a speaker who came to speak on the VA pension, which is also known as the Veterans Affairs Aid Attendance Program, where if you're 65 or older or you have a permanent disability and you serve during wartime, you as a veteran can apply to get monthly financial benefit as long as you're needing it for home care services. So couples will get $2,431 a month. Singles, like if you're not married, you would get $2,051 monthly. If you are a surviving spouse of a veteran who passed away, as long as you don't remarry, you would earn $1,371 monthly. VA does random audits on that. Now, another subject that came up is, I don't know if anyone was aware, that the VA across the nation is looking to close out some of the VAs where in an effort to either restructure how they affect medical care. At least 2 VAs in New York City have been targeted, the one in Manhattan and the one in Brooklyn. lot of questions were asked, a lot of veteran advocates on the call and outside the call showed a lot of concern that this would negatively affect the service delivery that veterans are getting. And we even had someone from the council and someone in a position of knowledge explain some of what's happening. Right now, there is an ask of the veteran families and colleagues to reach out to the electeds. We just need to get more information on what the plan entails because it's very intense from what they released on Monday. And there's still a lot of questions that have yet to be answered.
Okay.
I know it was a lot. We hope to get more answers in the upcoming weeks.
Okay. Thank you, Chad. All right, next item is the ad hoc bylaws committee. I don't think.
Sorry, another
Oh,
quick
go ahead, question, go ahead.
So does that mean that the veterans seeking medical care will come up to the Bronx VA? And does the Bronx VA have the capacity to offer services to an increased population?
Good question. And that question has come up several times. The Bronx VA is actually in a position to get certain upgrades done to the hospital. The belief is that people will actually have longer wait times, the service delivery will be effective, people will have to travel further in order to come to the VA. We're not really sure, but that is a major concern that has come forth. There's some double talk in the language where they've even come out and said if they're not able to provide the services in the area, then they may forego the plan of closing down the VA. It's kind of confusing when you read the whole thing. The service report that they gave from the VA secretary, it's in excess of 50 pages. I have to figure out how many pages it is.
Okay, Yahaira, your hand is up, go ahead.
Hi, Chad sent me that link and I read it for the VA. So one of the main questions that I have is also that, is the VA gonna have, proper staffing to accommodate the influx of people that are gonna be vets that are gonna be needing services? But for the most part, the report states that what they're trying to do is, their data is showing that what they're trying to do is the emergency services that vets have gone in for are emergency or services that could be provided by a local urgent care. So I think that's the avenue they're trying to go with. But in retrospect, we're going to be getting more an influx, and are we going to have the people to take care of it?
Good point. Chad, do they mention whether or not they will transfer the people from the closed facilities to the ones that remain open?
From what I read, the plans were to refer them to local private entities that provide the service, but that's not even outlined directly. In a word, it's sloppy. That's what they would like to do, but I don't think they have a direct plan. In fact, one thing I'll mention is in the report they mentioned that more veterans are leaving the Manhattan area to move upstate, and I'm not certain how they were able to get that data. I apologize for the noise. That's my little one. Do you want to? No, I'm not gonna say.
All right, Andrew, is your hand still up or do you have another question? Okay. Any other questions for Chad? All right, we'll move on then. Myrna is with us tonight regarding the bylaws committee. I believe her next meeting is going to be the 23rd. It's the night after the board general meeting. A lot of good ideas came up this evening, so if you're interested, please try to attend. All right, our next meeting of the exec committee will be on April 21st. Does anybody have a topic or an issue they would like to have brought up?
Barbara, I'm not a board member, but there's some housekeeping items that I would be happy to discuss in executive session instead of waiting till April.
Oh, do you want to do it now? Is that what you're asking?
It's the committee's discretion if it's possible.
Motion to
Yeah.
go into executive session?
Executive session?
Second. Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, Aisha, you want to do that?
I hate these little break rooms. Give me 1 second.
Yes, the breakout rooms. I don't want to lose everybody and try it, so.
Yeah, it's just I really.
Sorry to interrupt. I put the link in the chat so that people could read it. I was having a hard time finding it.
Okay,
I'll post it again if necessary.
very good, thank you.
It's a read, I'll tell you.
All right, so you're gonna see it on your screen. Just join. All right, just waiting for Michelle to join. All right, everyone else, just give us a few minutes. We'll be right back. Take it away from the squares. Are we here? Melody is Andrew. I think Andrew's phone is missing, his audio. Yeah, I think Andrew's audio is missing. Other than that, I think everybody's on. Oh no, Jahira. Whew, okay. Yeah, Andrew's audio. That's it, Barbara. Yeah, you're muted, Barbara. Barbara, you're muted. Barbara.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Any particular items for next month's agenda?
Yeah, we have the Vera Life, the marijuana facility.
Oh,
Oh,
right,
sorry,
yes.
Michelle, you were saying that too?
Will
No,
we-
I'd like to add the committee assignments, and also like best practice sharing on committees to our next agenda.
Committee assignments, and what was the next thing?
I
Michelle?
guess committee best practices
Okay. Committee best practices.
and also following up on the engagement survey.
Engagement survey.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right.
And
anything else?
you still want DCP, you still want the car wash presentation as well?
Not two, do you want two the same night if we have all these other items? Why don't,
That shouldn't be too long.
what do you think?
The car wash shouldn't be that long. I think 5
Okay.
minutes. I don't know. It's up to you. I'm just bringing it up.
If it's just 5 minutes, no problem.
It shouldn't be a big deal.
Well, it's 5 minutes of their presentation. I can imagine the questions.
The questions,
Yeah,
right?
We either have to limit the questions or have people submit their questions beforehand if
Yeah,
at all
that's not-
possible. If you want to have this presentation so we can do the other stuff. Otherwise, then let them come to a general board meeting. I don't really care, I mean, I'd like to
Do it that way too.
let them talk, whatever, but there's some
So
more.
I can invite them to the general board meeting if that's better for everyone and give them the floor for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah,
I
let's
think
do that.
so.
Yeah, and if we can submit questions, I would like if we can try to submit questions beforehand, so this way we know. People should read that flyer, the information that Aisha provided, and then try to, funnel the questions to Aisha that they could then be prepared. And there'll be questions from the community as well, so, but if we can kind of foreshadow that'll help move that along. So, yeah, let's put them on the general board meeting agenda.
Yeah, I think that works because then everybody will be able to hear them.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, anything else? We have a few items then for next month, and Aisha, you're going to send me the new member survey, and I'll work with that a little bit and send it out to this committee for suggestions before the next meeting.
Barbara,
Yeah. Oh, we have a hand there. Go ahead, Yahira.
also start maybe looking at, since the weather's gonna get warmer, like what events, like Bronx Week is gonna come up at some point. What do
Yeah,
we
that
wanna
we
do in
send
the
out,
beginning?
Jaira. When we get invited, we send it out. But nobody shows up
Yeah,
other
but
than
I'm just saying-
Lowell and member Jeffrey, so.
Is that not yet, what are we, we're in March, so
We're in March, but it's gonna get warm. Yesterday was 70 degrees.
so that's in
No, but
May?
Jahira's right, no one participates.
What do you mean nobody
That's what I'm
participates?
talking.
No,
Maybe-
no, I'm not,
maybe
I'm
now-
not. Maybe 3 board members show up every
No,
time we do
March.
something.
We
The-
March.
No, Jahira's not just referring to Bronx Week. She's talking about
Oh.
events in general,
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah, you're right, but
Wait,
that
wait,
goes
wait.
to,
Back up. Everybody back up. What I was trying to say is, since it's March, the weather's gonna start to get nicer in April and May. We should start looking at what events are gonna come up, so that if we can make arrangements now, start thinking about it now, we can
Got it.
attend and we can be there as, like, we should be as one, then we should start planning it from now, so that nobody at the end, nobody shows up. You understand
But
what I'm
that's the
coming
thing,
from?
Jahira, I can only share when I get them. So I don't have foresight as to what's gonna happen. So I share them when I get them, but that's it. That's all I could do.
we could also talk about maybe having 1 or 2 tabling events where the community board is at certain places on a Saturday or whatever, but its weather's good, just to share information about CB7. I don't know, give out stuff.
I like that idea, Betty,
I like that, yeah.
and I'd be willing to
Okay.
attend. Yeah.
All right. So let's consider that, as well as something for, May or June or something like that, just towards the end, we can just do maybe one or two and bring materials and just
So
share.
you have to pick agencies you want to distribute information from, because remember, CB7 itself doesn't have, so this is not something, so if you want to do it with DEP, then we do a DEP. Michelle, if you want to do this with the health committee, I mean, the health committee, the health, Department of Health, that works because they bring the stuff. Yeah.
Right. DEP's got loads of stuff that they always have.
Hell yeah.
Sanitation.
Yes, Barbara, to add to your agenda, a little small brainstorming session.
On a couple of events.
Public events.
Yeah, public events. So CB, just our own event, aside from Bronx Week or whatever else, things that we can do. Table, just pick some places throughout the CB7 that we can just set up for.
All right, sounds good. I have another hand there. I believe it's Andrew. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I would just add to the agenda a report from the new ad hoc committee on the Kingsbridge Armory development, because I'm sure that there are members who have been assigned to that ad hoc committee, and I'd like to hear what they have been discussing.
I am unaware of any assignments, Andrew, and I would think the office would be aware in order for us to send emails. So
What?
no.
No, that hasn't happened.
Okay.
Andrew?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, can we have a second on Andrew's motion?
Second, I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thanks, Barbara.
Good night.
Okay.